Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
Creo que Gary es un demonio.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Wreck, which came out in 2007 from directors Jaume Balagueró and Paco Plaza. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis for Wreck?
Well, the story follows Angela and her cameraman Pablo. They work for a Spanish TV show and have been tasked with hanging out with a local fire department over the course of an evening. When the fire crew are called to an apartment building to help an old woman, they realise that she might be infected by something and they have to try and escape from the apartment.
You a fan of found footage films, Iain?
I am and I'm not. I mean, there are some really, really good ones. The top one I always think has got to be Blair Witch.
1999, yeah.
Maybe as well Cannibal Holocaust. They're found footage films.
Well, but do you like it?
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, I've watched a few in my time, and there's some that really, really hit high notes, and then there's some that I just sit there and you just want to beat the guy with the camera to death because he won't put the fucking thing down and help.
Well, it was around this time. I mean, obviously Blair Witch, 1999. There was quite a big gap.
Yes.
Before anyone else went, you know what, let's try that found footage idea.
Yeah.
Obviously Cannibal Holocaust going all the way back. That's one of the earliest.
That's one of the earliest, yeah.
But then it was around 2006, 7 and 8 that we just saw a slew of these types of films.
Yeah.
Obviously Wreck was pretty much one of the first ones. But I mean, I think a lot of these films went into development around the same time.
Yeah.
Diary of the Dead,
Yes.
Cloverfield,
Yes.
and Wreck all came out within a year of each other. The thing is with the UK is that Wreck got a massively delayed release over here, so it came out after Diary and after Cloverfield,
Right.
when it had already had sort of international success, which
Yeah.
is why there is a big audience for the film Wreck, because it's one of those films that did so well that everybody across the world heard about it. And the only thing I can think of that happens more similar within the horror genre is The Train to Busan, where
Yes.
literally a foreign horror zombie film has done really well, and it's done internationally well.
Yeah.
And obviously with this one being the found footage, you know, there'd be Paranormal Activity.
Oh, God, yeah.
There'd even the found footage genre made its way into video games. You know, Resident Evil or Biohazard found VHS forgotten or lost footage tapes.
Yeah.
The video game Outlast, especially when it went into night vision mode, very reminiscent of visuals that you'd see in Wreck.
Yeah.
So Wreck, literally, it has inspired and changed and helped, you know, the horror genre. You know,
Massively.
just like a lot of horror films do come along and just help change the genre.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for Wreck when it was on TV and it was being released in the cinema, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. You know, before this, you'd had 28 Days Later come out with 2002. Also, you know, Dawn of the Dead, the remake, had come out, and I had kind of enjoyed that. But then zombie-ness in film was starting to lull. But, you know, The Walking Dead, I can't remember when the first season of The Walking Dead came out, but that would start to go, oh, look, zombies are...
It's 2009,
Yeah,
2008.
zombies are coming back into production. I'm like, okay, I need something good. And then I see Wreck, and I'm like, wow, this looks like a really cool found footage infection movie where people are locked in this building and people are fucking turning into flesh-eating zombies.
Simple concept, one location.
Yes.
Can really work.
But what for me stood out for Wreck was actually it wasn't what I was expecting. It was what I wanted, but I didn't realize I wanted it. Like I said, it starts off with Angela, played by Manuela Velasco, and her cameraman Pablo. They're just stood there in this fire department. They're just talking about their show. And before you know it, you are already liking this character. Well, I do. I automatically like these characters because I can relate to them. They're just doing their job.
Well, it's because you get to see, you're not seeing the final edited presentation piece.
Yeah.
You're seeing the bits in between where they're trying to get the shot right. They're discussing whether to cut because the person they're interviewing is not that interesting.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're getting the behind the scenes of this late night show. But what really helps is that the lead actress is an actual Spanish TV presenter.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So she's actually coming, you know, that's her job in
Yeah,
reality. So actually playing a part where she's doing what she does for a living, it blends seamlessly.
Oye, que tú mismo, si ves que es un coñazo, pues corta, que me estoy oliendo yo que este tío. Así ahorramos cinta.
And then when she's interacting with the firemen in the fire department, you know, I'm like, wow, I didn't look it up on the notes, but I'm sure half of those guys would be actors and the other half would actually be proper firemen at this location, because it doesn't look like a backlot set.
No.
You know, it looks like they actually had the chance to film in a proper fire station.
It was a low-budget film that was originally intended for straight to DVD, but obviously when they were watching the film back and the investors were like, no, wait, this has to go out to the world.
We love our low-budget horror movies, but they've got to be low-budget horror movies that we didn't realise were going to be really low-budget. But with Rec, I always felt like there was some money behind it, but they kind of kept that for the special effects. You know, the stuff that's going to come later on. You're just going to have to get behind these characters, start to feel for them. Yeah, you're wanting them to get out, but then as soon as you hear that alarm go, if you've seen Rec before or you have a hint of what it might be about, you're actually sat there like, okay, now it's going to kick off.
Yeah. You know, it's great. I like the fact that you know, they can't go down the pole because they got the cameraman. So like, we'll quickly take the stairs. And by the time they get down the stairs, all the firemen are in the truck and they're like, "Come on, we gotta go."
See, I want to say that obviously, I like Pablo, the cameraman, because you don't have to interact with him that much. I don't think you actually ever see his face.
No.
And so you are Pablo in a weird way. But as much as you want to put the camera down, like I said earlier, and you want to help everybody and not see anything, he's constantly told to keep recording. You know, this is part of his job.
Yeah.
This is what he's paid to do. And who else better to record a bloody incident like this than a man working for a TV crew? Because when they're driving up there, they don't know what's going on. You know, Angela's hoping it's going to be a fire, something exciting and dramatic, you know, something to make her career. And the firemen are like, look, there's three of us. And, you know, it's a lady trapped in her apartment. We just literally have to probably break open her door. And they get to the apartment, they get in, and you've got these two police officers there. All the people are in the lobby. And it's so easy to just come in and go, here's all your cast.
Yeah.
You know, there might be a couple of people left upstairs in a room, but do you really need to see them? Do you need to see the old man, the old Chinese man who's up there ill? Not really, but, you know, that little girl doesn't look well.
Well, no, apparently her dog is at the vet's and her father's at the chemist getting some drugs for her tonsillitis.
Sombrex!
But yeah, you know, you're thrown into chaos the moment they get into that hallway.
Yes.
And all of these people are trying to question what's going on, why are we out of our rooms, what's going on up there. No one knows. Obviously the cameramen are trying to film things. There's the local law enforcement that are just like, get the cameras away, they shouldn't be filmed. But at the same time, it should be filmed because something is obviously going on. And so all of this chaos is happening until they finally decide to go up to investigate this room where apparently there was horrible, deathly screaming coming from this room, which is what's got everyone a little bit on edge.
And there's an old lady that lives in this apartment. So we follow everybody in. And the lighting works. The camera angles work. I'm just there on Pablo's shoulder, following these guys down. And when you see her, the old lady just standing at the end in her nightgown, she looks fucking feral already.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's the fact that she doesn't verbally respond.
Yeah.
And eventually she does lunge for one of the police officers. And you know, first time watching this, you're like, what?
Yeah.
And it is like a zombie attack, you know, especially when they have to pry her away from the officer, leaving the trail of flesh, and it's like, oh,
ripping his face off. And you're shocked because it's really well done special effects, really well done makeup. You know, you don't need it to be anything more than what you're getting, just one simple bite attack.
Well, it's the fact that it's also in a low light situation.
Yeah.
This is all being done by, you know, found footage camera, so getting the focus on it, you know, it's not going to have the cutaways or anything like that. But the way that it's edited, it still flows together and still captures a horrific bite sequence like that.
Yeah. But as a fan of horror movies, you know that that's really bad, you know, because whatever she's got is now starting to spread. And it's the way that they bring the police officer down the stairs. He's bleeding all over the place. They need to get him to a hospital. They leave the fireman Alex upstairs with the old woman, which obviously is going to be a bad idea. But when they get back to the lobby and all the people are there freaking out, the police outside have locked the building down.
Yes. All of the residents are now trying to get out, but they're being quarantined inside this building. And they're not given any explanation why. They're just told that there's an agent inside with them to give them instructions. Yeah,
either the fireman or the police officer. And I'm like, but the police officer and the fireman want to get out as well, and you're not even letting them out.
Right.
This is just as the first one in the series, I mean, there are 3 other Wreck movies after this, which would explain more of this backstory. I like the feeling I had the first time I watched it, where having the police lock down the building made me think that it was bigger than this apartment building. You know, what I mean is, initially when I saw the trailer and then sat down to watch the film, I figured it was going to be them going in, some of them getting infected, they get trapped inside the building, not by police, and they start to die off one by one, and maybe the building gets opened up later. What I got was the police are there like, nope, none of you are coming out. Like, they know what's in there.
Well, I don't think the officer that's in the apartment complex knows.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't know. But somehow the information is leaked because the police are out there. They're locking the building from outside.
Yeah.
They're shutting it down with cling film. You know, they are telling people to stay away from the windows, or you will be shot. And so I'm like, those guys
outside. They
know. They know something's in here.
And it turns out eventually, I mean, one of the scientists from outside does eventually come into the building and start wanting to do blood tests to decipher who is infected and who isn't. But he literally explains that they got tipped off by a vet who reported a dog who they had to kill because it went feral and attacked all the other animals.
Yeah.
And so they've tracked that animal, that dog, to this apartment complex, which is why they quarantined it off without even knowing what was going on inside.
But it's everything that leads up to him coming in. I mean, Alex takes the fall over the top of the balcony.
That's the point. That's the big jump scare of the film, when they're all trying to get out, and then that fireman just falls and hits the deck, and he's still alive. He's got bite marks on his face and chest, and he's also taken the damage from the fall. That's just like, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Acercarse al edificio y le traía antibióticos a la niña.
But they head up there as well, don't they? The fireman and the other police officer, along with Angela and Pablo. And when they get up there, we see another victim come out who has a bite on her arm or on her face. You can't really see because it's dark. She falls on the floor and the cop says, oh, she's dead. And then he puts bullets into the old lady and she hits the floor, and you're like, right, okay, so these things can die from bullet wounds. I'm not entirely sure about the lady on the floor.
I like the fact that he was worried about the fact that it was recorded and he shot an unarmed woman, you know, who may or may not have been lunging for him, but you can't quite tell. Yeah, but obviously he goes through the whole remorse of, I've just killed an innocent woman. You know, innocent. But, you know, you can put yourself in his psyche of what's going on, because that police officer has also been a bit of a douche.
Yeah.
For the most part, but, you know, especially because he keeps turning to the camera and saying, turn it off, shut it off, and he keeps knocking it away, which is essentially the audience, which is why you would, you know, vilify that police officer.
See, I made a kind of backstory for him this third time I watched it. The other times he's just a police officer, but in this one I was just like, he's that kind of guy who would turn around at some point and be like, I have a wife and children to get home to, you know?
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He's still trying to do his job, but as a rookie kind of way.
Yeah, in a roundabout way,
Yeah.
So now that the building has been completely secured,
Yeah.
they've got to find another way out. And so they start trying to make their way into the basement area behind this shutter.
Textile factory, isn't it?
It's a textile factory that actually has no other way out. But they decide that that's where they're going to store the injured people for now.
Yeah.
Which is then when the paramedic character ends up coming into the building.
You have Gaiman, the doctor who lives at the apartment, and he's trying to tend to the wounds. And then we have the scientists come in, and Pablo and Angela are separated from the main group, but they sneak the camera in for a window to have a look. And we watch the scientist inject first Alex with something, and then he goes to inject the police officer, and they immediately start attacking. And they attack the doctor, and the scientist explains that this virus is transmitted through bites, through saliva, but it also affects particular blood types, and so the change can be instantaneous or may take a while. And so after we see the doctor has been bitten and he says he's fine, he immediately turns into one of these violent, aggressive, infected people. Now, as a zombie fan, these things are not zombies.
They lost all verbal communication. They're acting on impulse, and it just looks like they need to... It doesn't look like they need to feed,
Yeah,
but they need to
exactly.
pass on the virus.
They need to pass on the virus, but at the same time, they also don't need to be dead for
Right.
the virus to take them over
That's
in traditional zombie sense. These things can just be bitten and then turn after they've succumbed
there
possibly
seems
to their
to be a
injuries.
small amount of unconsciousness, because even the vet said about the dog was that even though we don't see it, they had to sedate it before
Yeah.
it went into a coma.
Yeah.
And then came out.
Right.
So,
But as much as I love Rec, the later explanation starts to really unravel my mind. After they realised that the dog is connected with the apartment building and with all the virus, they realised that the little girl who was supposedly suffering from tonsillitis is herself infected, and she immediately turns. It's like she'd been hiding it throughout most of the film and then turns at that exact point to spit blood in her mum's face. When she races up the stairs and the cop and the fireman Manu go after her, the cop is bitten.
yeah.
And he decides to hold himself back with the little girl because he knows he's going to change. And so you're just like, right, this virus is really starting to get out of control now, because as they start to come back down the stairs, they realize that the infected are trying to get through the shutters, and they manage to get through and attack the mother who they'd handcuffed to the bottom of the stairs. And there's that god-awful scene where they're trying to save her, and it's like, where's the key? And the cop has the key, and he's just changed. And you're just like, get the fuck out of there. It becomes so frantic and so fast-paced. I actually don't mind not seeing everything.
Yes, yeah.
Because
your
I've-
imagination can do that for you.
Yeah.
The screams of those that are being bitten and eaten is enough.
But my memory starts to flash back as well of who we saw, like, because they had that little interview segment in the
Yes.
basement, and so there was an old man and an old lady there. They're dead, obviously. There's the Chinese family with their little boy. I'm pretty sure he's dead too. And they managed just to get into one apartment with one last survivor, come across the scientist, and he goes, I'm bit as well. There's nothing you can do. And it's like, shit. You know, this by this point, I'm like, this film should be over.
No.
Everybody's going to be dead.
There's now only 4 survivors. There's Manu, the fireman.
Yes.
There's the cameraman. There's Angela. And then there's this other pompous sort of character.
Yeah.
and he's the racist one who hates the Chinese, and he blames this outbreak on their cooking.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There's a lot of red herrings in it, isn't there?
Yeah. But he explains that there is the penthouse at the top that no one's been in for ages. Maybe we can get the key
No. He
to
explains
get to
them-
the attic, to get to the roof.
No, he explains that there's a key to get them into the basement, and that there's a sewer system in the basement, which is the same sewer system, I think, which turns up in Rec 2.
Right, yes, yeah.
But they try to make their way down there, and then they're attacked, and they race back up. And we've already been explained that there's an apartment in the attic that's been abandoned for years, and it's all locked up. But the doctor had a key for it, because he was kind of the custodian for the apartment building. And they tried to get the key from him for the sewers. So when they finally race up to the attic, they get themselves in there, and turns out that the attic was lived in by a priest who had been trying to exorcise a demon from a little girl. Now this is where, for me, Rec starts to go woo all over the place, and I have a hard time trying to keep up with the reason behind the infection.
Especially as that there's only 10 minutes of the film left.
Yeah, it's a very incredibly short film. It's very surprising this time around. I'm like,
well, I think
it's not 2 hours long.
One of the original working titles for the film was 70 minutes.
Wow.
As in, that's the length of the film, is an hour and 10 minutes. And I kind of like that because it's like, you know, the camera, when it gets knocked over or turned off, it's like, you know, just like found footage, you don't see what happens next until somebody turns the camera back on.
Yeah.
And so it seems to have cut out 20 minutes of fluff to condense it down.
Yeah.
Which I like.
Which, in a weird way, I kind of found it was like being done in one take. You know,
but the whole film was shot chronologically, so they did shoot everything in order as the sequence of events play out.
Yeah, and it free flows like that, just from the moments where they're running up and down the stairs. You expect those moments for the camera to cut out and then them to reestablish themselves in somewhere else, but you don't. You get the whole chase sequences up the stairs. I love those shots where he pans down and looks down into the lobby, and you either, like at the start, everyone's just looking up fine, then later on, everyone's not so fine, you know?
Yeah.
But they get into the attic and they realize that this place has got a priest in who's trying to exorcise a demon from this little girl known as Tristana Mideres. Now, I had to look up the lore. As a Rec fan, I've seen the first one, the second one, and the third one, and haven't actually finished the series. But this is where the virus always started, and I never fully understood it, because it turns out that this little girl was raped by some priests, and some nuns decided to exorcise a demonic spirit from her. When that didn't work, this priest took the little girl to his apartment building to experiment on her and try to understand how demonic possession works in a virus form. He experimented on dogs nearby and children, orphan children, and realized that it was mutating, and that's how the virus got out. So through the film, you'd been given these red herrings. Is it the dog? Is it the little girl? Is it the old Chinese man in the attic? You know, is it just spontaneous, like in a lot of films? But instead we get this, it's a demonic possession thing.
Ha conseguido aislarla encima. El problema es su inestabilidad. El contacto con el oxígeno la deteriora rápidamente.
And I'm like, I'm not entirely sure if I like that or not. It works because of this film, but on a grander scale, it's...
You know, a part of me is just like, well, this is no longer a zombie film. It's like, it's not. This is... But it's still remembered as.
Yeah.
But yeah, the supernatural twist that comes at the end of this film, I didn't really like it, and I still don't really like it now.
Yeah.
But they needed a way to end the film.
Yeah.
You know? Now, I think it's also because unless the rewind button, the image of it is different in Spain...
Right.
This bit also throws me off because she keeps rewinding the tape and pressing play.
Yeah.
But it's playing the next bit that would have come from the tape. It's not like she's rewinding it. And if she is rewinding it, it would be saying the same thing we just heard it say.
Yeah. It gets a bit weird.
And that's a little bit annoying. But yeah, it's all of the explanation is given to us, and then before we know it, the camera's been knocked over, the bulb on it's gone, they're down to night vision mode.
And this emaciated, possessed girl appears in the darkness. Now, weirdly enough, in the sequel, there's a door that can only be seen in the darkness, and it appears that this girl actually exists on a separate plane. So that whole section where we see them with the spotlight on, she's in that room, but she just can't interact with them. When the darkness comes in and they have to activate the night vision, which is an awesome sequence. I mean, must have been fucking terrifying.
Well, I was just going to say is that the actors in this film were never given full scripts. They were just given a few pages and a few lines of dialogue.
Evil Dead style.
These are going to be this is your dialogue. But then they don't tell the actors they're going to turn all the lights off. You know, they don't tell the actors there's going to be horrible noises and screams, and other actors are going to be trying to get to you. And so all of the screams and general reactions of the actors in the film are real because they didn't know what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
They didn't know where they were going to get attacked from. They were only given snippets of the script, and so I was like, that, we hear stories about them, other directors doing that, but it works.
It works. And this skeletal thing attacks Pablo, kills him, knocks the camera from his hand, and then Angela finds the camera and is dragged off in a... I'd actually say this sequence where she's dragged off is kind of like the staple for horror movies now. It's one of those horror images that you've seen replicated numerous number of times, but it's only done brilliantly in this original.
The villains, I guess, winning at the end, or the demons winning, and the last survivor getting killed at the very end. You don't see it too much.
No, but it's just enough where the first time viewer, you've sat through it, you've had no idea what's going on, they've given you this explanation, and you go, ooh, I'm wanting more. Yeah,
I don't know, I feel a little bit gutted at the end. It's like, they've quarantined this building, but everyone that's inside it's now dead.
Yeah, it happens.
Or are they?
Yeah.
So, which is why you would then roll on to the sequels. Now, with Rec 2, I do like Rec 2 because it happens at the same time as the events of Rec 1.
Yeah.
Where you're seeing things from outside of the quarantine building.
The SWAT team and the kids moving in with their camera.
Exactly. And then the next scientist and team being sent into that apartment to uncover what happened and find out that Angela was still alive.
Yeah. But then it starts to go with the whole demon possession thing, and there's a weird slug-like creature. And then the third one comes at a wedding. I'd love to review all the series, but I mean, briefly, the third one really caught me off guard how much I'd enjoy it, because the first two are found footage films, again.
Yeah.
The third one starts with that, and then they drop it completely, and you're like, wow, this is...
a normal film.
Yeah, this is a normal film, and you're just along for the ride. But like I said, I haven't seen the fourth one of the massive, huge explanation of the virus. And
Rec 4, I think it's because Rec 3 is Genesis, Rec 4 is Apocalypse, and it takes place on a boat, and the main star of it is Angela, and it's the same actress reprising the role again. But this time she's much more of a badass. She knows, everything about the virus, and and at the end of the day, it was just like, Rec was such a breakout hit.
Yeah.
That its first sequel was okay. It gave you a little bit more. The third one, it's like, I turned that one off. I really didn't like it. I was like, I'm done with the Rec franchise. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But for some reason, I thought, I'll give the fourth one a go because it's following Angela again. I was like, I haven't seen you since the second one.
Yeah.
And seeing how that character changes. But I'm like... it's such a massive character change from where she was in the first one. I was like, at least I know you survived.
Where she ends up from the second one as well, with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so it's an entirely different film, and in the end, it's really generic and average compared to where the first film was. At least it doesn't derail itself massively, but it's still, as a quadrilogy of films, it's not the best. But the first one...
yeah.
has so many memorable moments, and I mean, it's hard to pick favourite scenes because of the found footage nature of the film. It's like, what do you consider scenes? It's like when the camera was on or off.
Well, I took segments myself, things that happened in those scenes where I was just like,
If I, with before even watching the film, I could have told you what my memorable scenes were. And that is the fireman falling down, the anarchy, down in the hallway when the mother is tied to the chain
and they're
fence,
trying to come out for the shutters.
You put yourself in that situation in any of their shoes, and it's horrible. But then the sequence when they are running away from all the infected up into the penthouse, and they manage to close the door on them just in time
as they come.
And as you said, that shot looking down the stairway as all of the infected are looking up at them. Yeah, it's quite a moment. I'd also chuck it out to the sound effects of the possessed infected.
Yeah.
Like, even the girl, the sound effects she's making.
Yeah, just
it's
those horrific. Screams, guttural cries. They just, like I said, it harkens back to me for Dawn of the Dead, the remake, where they're just like, oh, we're running now. But I'm like, these ones are doing it so well.
But it's because they're so different, because even when the infected see their prey, they don't immediately lunge at them, they don't go crazy or anything. It's very delayed.
Like-
And it's like, even the creature in the penthouse, she knows that they're in there and she's just wandering around in the dark, knocking things over. And
Yeah.
it's like, how well aware are you of the survivors in this room with you? It's like, and
Yeah.
it's hard to know how they behave. I guess their unpredictability is also part of what makes them scary.
Yeah. I have particular sequences. I mean, Gary's just gone over a few of them. Just the whole lobby sequences, the all of the camera work. I'd say I am happy, really, really happy with the camera work in the film. It keeps me in part of the action. I even like that little part where they turn the camera off and the little girl turns it on and she's just kind of prodding it, and I'm like, I feel a bigger part of the film now because I'm not involved in that conversation all the way over there. I'm looking at this little girl. Oh, doesn't she look so innocent? I hope nothing bad happens to her. Yeah, it does, but at the same time, the effects on the creatures, you only see it briefly, but just enough that you see the kind of the sores around the mouth, the weeping of the noses and the eyes. These guys, you do not want to be anywhere near you, but they are running real fast and they are fucking screaming their heads off, and all they want to do is bite and scratch you. And you don't want to kill them like in most zombie movies. You don't want to, kill these innocent people, but they're far from innocent.
Well, yeah.
At this point, I love the whole the police force and the government just turning up.
You don't see them, but the sound effects and the silhouettes.
Yeah, the silhouettes. It's done really, really well. The fact that it would lead into Rec 2 and we see it from the cop's point, I like that as well. The explanation, the skeletal girl, I like her effect, but I don't like the explanation behind her. If I was going to change one thing in this film, I'd make it a kind of Shivers kind of explanation.
Right.
Maybe a scientist was experimenting on her, and she got loose and killed him.
But I mean, that's again, it's generic. It's kind of forgettable. It's like
yeah.
we've seen that before. And so at least Rec is different with it saying that it's demonic, possessed, undead, infection.
Yeah,
it's such a hybrid. It's like, well, there's nothing else like it. The only thing I can think of is maybe Fear. Where it's like possession and demonic and virus. It's like blending science with religion and demonic entities. It's the hodgepodge of it. It's,
the hodgepodge, yeah.
And I do like it's not. It doesn't explore it very much. It just goes, there's your explanation. If you get bitten by one of these creatures, you become possessed.
But I mean, as bad as I don't like the ending for Rec, I cannot bring myself to watch Quarantine.
No, the remake. And what I was trying to think, I was like, I watched Quarantine.
You watched
but
it,
I cannot
did you?
actually recall a single scene
It's
in
a
that
complete-
film.
it's just a rehash.
It is a rehash. All the things that happen again.
Yeah.
But with American actors.
In an airport, I think it is.
It's been so long ago since I've seen it, I cannot remember a single thing about it. And so that's enough to tell you.
Don't watch it.
Don't watch the fucking remake. Oh, God. Yeah, Quarantine. Avoid that. But I do recommend Rec. Rec did really well when it came out, and if you managed to miss it when it did, you owe it to yourself to go and check the first film out.
Yes.
It starts off as a slow documentary-style TV show that very quickly descends into a zombie apocalypse in a building. It turns into horror very quickly, with a monster in the attic. There is lots of blurry, shaky cam, and if you're not a fan of the found footage genre, I doubt Rec will change your opinion on that. It might.
Yeah.
But, if you don't like... If you've got to this point in time and not liked any found footage films, you're probably not going to like this one because of the shaky cam. You've said that the camera work is really good.
Yeah.
And it is good at capturing what it needs to. It gets in the frame what it needs to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I became aware of that when they're filming through the small gap in the window.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a massive brawl and fight and people are being bitten. And the camera sort of is fixed in one location, but the actors are all doing stuff in that small frame. So I'm like, well, they've still captured it. It still works.
Yes.
So despite the shaky cam, the camera still does highlight what it needs to and is obviously turned off for the bits that we don't. Which it does very well. Yeah. The music in the film is very light. I don't really recall the music that much. It feels like all authentic sounds and visuals.
I remember the song on the end credits.
Exactly.
That was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. The one big weakness I will give this film is that there is zero character development, like none. I mean, there's none whatsoever. They are stereotypical characters in a building with this event playing out, and so it scores low there.
See, I argue that with the fact that these characters, for me, the more times I watch it, are already established, and everything that happens to them during the night stops character development.
Well,
I mean, Angela starts to slowly become more and more of a badass, but she's screaming
and horrified right till the end.
But she's also screaming and trying to argue with the police officers because she wants to get out. To me, I make up this whole backstory that it's her. She wants to further her career. She actually doesn't care about anybody. Maybe Pablo, but then again, Pablo seems a bit of a badass at some point, so he's able to keep us informed with all this. But then at the same time, he could have been bashing people with that camera. That would have made it fun. I definitely recommend Wreck. And if you are not a fan of found footage films, you're probably going to sit there and go, I'm not ever going to watch this. But you should, because it's good. There are loads of really, really bad ones that copy the same stuff and have the same cliches and are really fucking boring. I mean, I don't like Cloverfield. I know a lot of people do, but that guy really needs to put the fucking camera down, and he doesn't. Diary of the Dead, I know what Jorge Romero was trying to do, but the Spanish had already beaten him to it. There is a weakness with the ending, but it does leave it open for you to go into Rec 2, which is not bad, and could actually do Rec 1 and Rec 2 in one evening. If you're going to have a bunch of friends around for a movie night, and somebody picks a horror, you can't go wrong with Rec.
No.
It's really short as well. You'll blink and it'll be over and you'll be like, what did I fucking miss?
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
En serio,